Welcome back to NW Outpost. This is a really wet, nasty, rainy day in the Northwest here, and we're going to be going over me reviewing my Predator super quiet 1400 watt generator. This thing's been a great machine. I actually own two of them. Self-sponsored video here. I've had it for about 2 years, and we're going to go over what I like about this and why I think it's a great generator for an off-grid little cabin. I'll also cover in this video two perfect examples of how you can pair this thing up with a deep cycle solar panel system in the wintertime when you're not getting as much power, and how you can pair this up with a power station for a little off-grid cabin you can use on the weekend. So I hope you enjoy the video. We'll go over the front panel here real quick and talk about, it's got dual 120 volt outputs here. It's got a reset breaker on the front. Shows some overload and low oil lights that come on here. It's got dual USB ports up here on the front. It's got parallel ports where you can chain these machines together if you have two of these generators and parallel them. It's got a 5 amp DC out. You could hook that up and charge batteries if you want with it. And it's also got a ESC throttle control. I usually run mine on that. Basically, if you turn it off, the engine will run up a little higher RPM. If you turn it on, it's a little more fuel efficient. It will idle down a little lower and control the depending the RPMs for load. Very quiet little generator. Like I said, I had two of them. Now, I got both of these machines at different times, searching through Harbor Freight returns. Looked like people bought them as like weekend warriors. I just want to make this video after owning this thing for 2 years. Been happy with both of them. I use one at an off-grid little cabin, charge up my batteries. I'll go into detail next about how I use that one. And then we'll jump back in here how I use this one for working on my cabin here. So here's my secondary little generator. I've had it for about 2 years. Keep that board over it to keep the rain from landing on it. It was pouring down the night before. So go through, turn the gas tank vent on, turn the generator on, the on switch, turn the choke on, give it a pull or two, fires right up. And if right after that, I just like to turn the choke right off, and it's good to go. I use these two generators for different applications. Right there, there's a ESC throttle control. Definitely idles it down a bit. Definitely use it for two different applications. Out here, I run this 15 amp Harbor Freight battery charger to charge two deep cycle batteries I have to run my 12 volt heater and 12 volt LED lights in this little cabin. And also I have a little refrigerator I'll charge up as keep that thing running to a 12 volt. Because out here in the Northwest, these gloomy days, these solar panels don't do the best trying to charge up those little deep cycle batteries. So again, that's where this little generator comes in handy. Alright, so I'm about 5 feet from the camera. The generator is sitting behind me about 20 feet from the camera. Gives you an idea of the audio level of the quiet generator. They're not really that bad. The harshness is taken off. It's not like a utility generator you fire up for running construction tools like chop saws and table saws. Those have really harsh, wide open engine sound. This is more of a lower droning sound. The case of this thing has some sound deadening in it. They take good care of trying to keep the intake sound to a minimum. And then of course it has a pretty good muffler on it. But right now it's revving up a little bit higher because we're running a 15 amp battery charger inside, charging those deep cycle batteries. But I'm going to walk down 20 feet from the camera next to the generator. I'll probably have to talk a little bit louder. You can get an idea how loud the machine is. So I'm down away from the camera 20 feet. Again, it's revved up a little higher because it's running that 15 amp battery charger inside. But if you strategically place this behind some trees or behind a dirt mound with a little berm, it will quiet it down even more, but it's really not that bad, especially inside. So as you can see, I have, my cabin, I've been working on a little tiny home, tiny cabin on a trailer. Been working on getting pretty close to finishing this up. I have a bigger generator I've had down here for running table saws and things like that. This one just doesn't have the wattage. This one is a 1400 watt peak, 1100 watt continuous. And you know, you gotta be realistic what you're gonna run with this thing. It will charge up cordless tools, all my Hercules tools. I can run the battery charger in here and run it. But like I said, I like using it for battery charger to charge up my deep cycles. You're not gonna run a table saw for this thing, anything big, but you can charge up cordless tool battery chargers. But what I like this thing down here for is to charge up my power box, my power station. Now, the power station I have inside here, I don't recommend. It's a Bluetti. I think it's absolute garbage. I use this big one for running table saws and things like that. but it's super loud, really annoying to run. This thing's really quiet, and you can run it for hours on just a tiny bit of fuel. Extremely fuel efficient. So we'll fire this thing up. I'll jump inside and I'll show you charging my battery power station. Long time ago, I hooked my power station up to this generator when I had it down here, and it glitched it out completely. Remember, this thing just puts out dirty power, I should say. This has an inverter and puts out sine wave power. Super clean for sensitive electronics. I got a little diesel heater in here which draws power, 12-volt lights. This thing keeps it topped up, and I've been able to even run things like small air compressors that this generator alone wouldn't run. Power station has a higher wattage, so if I run this thing charging at 1100 watts in the power station, even if I have something that goes 1600 watts, the power station can handle that, and this is just supplemental power to keep it charged up. So we'll fire this thing up a minute and jump inside, and I'll show you it charging that. I haven't started this thing in probably 2 weeks, something like that, so we'll see how it just been sitting under the tarp out in the rain here. All right, we'll jump inside and I'll show you that power station. So here's my Blue 80 power station. I do not recommend this thing at all. It's a dud, but it does power it. That's all I have right now. But as you can see, I got the power coming in from the generator outside. It's inputting 280 watts right now. That's all this thing is requiring to charge it up, because it's at 99% full already. I've already charged it, and it's outputting 77 at the moment watts DC out from my diesel heater. That's on high, and all my 12-volt lighting in this place. You definitely cannot charge these things off of old-fashioned like contractor generators. You need a sine wave inverter generator to power these, because they have a kind of elaborate charging system in here, and they're basically computer controlled, and electronics flip out if you don't feed them clean power. All right, so I'm gonna shut this off so I can finish up the video here. The sound you hear now is just my diesel heater exhaust. The reason why I recommend these things is I've owned 2 of them. I bought them both at Harbor Freight on returns for a good price, and they've been nothing but a good, reliable generator. Just always run ethanol-free fuel in them if you're going to be keeping them around. This one here I run a few times a month, a few hours at a time, just to charge up my power box when I'm down here working on this little cabin. The other one I run probably 16 hours a month, and just charge up my deep cycles, and it's been great. Just make sure to change the oil. They don't hold much oil. Change the oil every 6 months to a year, depending on how much you're running it, and try to run them on occasion. If you fill one of these things up with fuel and don't run it very often, you're probably gonna deal with carb problems. That's why I recommend ethanol-free fuel. And just try to run some fuel stabilizer as well if you're going to be letting it sit for a long period of time, or just try to fire them up, run some tools, or charge some stuff on occasion. But what I like about them is you can have a super quiet, very fuel efficient generator to run a power stations, charge up power stations like that if you're just trying to go bare bones off grid. Or you can use it like I was using another place, where I can charge up some deep cycles when the solar is not kicking in enough to do what you need it to do. And really simple solution. They're very light. That's nice. You can also throw them in your truck if you're out car camping or something like that, to have some power for charging other things as well. But so far I have no complaints. It feels like the build quality is great. They're nice and quiet, not irritating a bunch of people around you for running them. And like I said, I got them both as returns. So if you are looking around the Harbor Freight return section, usually every store has them in the back section. You look over for discounts. If you're friends with the managers, talk with them on occasion. You can kind of sometimes do a little more bargaining, especially if it's been around there for a while. And I've talked with the managers and kind of bargained down a little bit with them, because they're sitting on the floor for a bit. You got 5 days to test that stuff out. And if you don't test it in 5 days and you get it home and realize a week later that it doesn't work right, there's something broken on it, it's kind of on you at that point. So if you do buy something from the Harbor Freight return area, make sure to go over it, test it, put load on it, make sure DC outputs work, make sure the AC outputs work. I just filled mine up with gas after checking the oil and ran them. I ran it through a whole tank of gas with the load on it, like electric heater or charging some batteries, just to make sure there was no problems with it. And both of them turned out to be great. One of them I got looked like someone just borrowed it for a weekend, bought it, used it, and returned it. Not the best. People shouldn't be doing that. It's kind of ruining the policy on that. And the second one I had, this one, I think someone let it fall over in the back of their truck. It's kind of got scuffed up, and it had a bunch of oil in the bottom, like the oil spilled out in there. And so I brought it home, wiped it down a little bit, topped it up on oil again, put some gas in it, fired right up. So if you're considering one of these Predator Harbor Freight Whisper Quiet inverter generators, I say these 1400 watts are awesome. I haven't ran the bigger ones. Maybe someday I'll buy a bigger one and try it out. But 2 years of running these things and I've had 0 complaints. Very reliable. I highly recommend, as long as this wattage fits in your range. As you can see, this isn't enough to run a lot of big tools, but I figured some workarounds and it works for my needs. All right, till next time, take care. Bye.